Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, let me thank Special Envoy Mr. Hans Grunberg and Under Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief, Mr. Martin Griffiths, for their briefings. We welcome very much their commitment and efforts to bring an end to the conflict in Yemen and alleviate the deep suffering of the Yemeni people. We are also grateful to the chair of the 2140 Committee, Ambassador Hocha, for the report on the work of the committee. We also welcome the participation of the representative of Yemen to this meeting. Ghana remains concerned over the deteriorating security situation, which has engulfed Marib and Shabwa and continues to impact negatively on the economic and humanitarian situations in the country. Having listened to the briefings, I wish to make the following remarks. We have witnessed with grave concern the alarming rate of casualties in blatant disregard for civilian lives. We condemn, in particular, the attack on the Sada Detention Center, which killed many people, and the killing of children in Hudeida. All parties must prioritize the protection of civilian and civilian infrastructure and adhere to the principles of proportionality, distinction, and precaution in accordance with international humanitarian law. We call on the leaders of the parties, in the true interest of their peoples, to set aside their differences, commit to an immediate nationwide ceasefire, and engage in a political process to find a lasting solution to the conflict. In line with Security Council Resolution 2564, the people of Yemen must chart their own path to peace through a Yemeni-led, Yemeni-owned political process under the auspices of the United Nations. Ghana therefore supports the efforts of the Special Envoy to develop a framework for an inclusive political process in concert with the parties and other actors, and looks forward to concrete steps in response to the urgent situation on the ground. In pressing for an inclusive process, we reiterate the call for the full, equal, and meaningful participation of women in all aspects of the political negotiations. Beyond the durability that the participation of women affords to peace processes, the parties must acknowledge the right of the Yemeni women to be part of the solution. Mr. President, Yemen continues to experience the worst humanitarian crisis as 80% of its population are in need of humanitarian assistance and face an imminent threat of widespread famine. We denounce the undue bureaucratic obstructions to humanitarian operations by which the parties seek to advance their own political and military objectives, and urge immediate and unhindered humanitarian access to all areas where assistance is needed. Additionally, international funding support is urgently required to augment acute funding shortfalls for humanitarian operations. We welcome the intention of the governments of Switzerland and Sweden to co-host a pledging conference in March this year and encourage the international community and donors to support the United Nations to raise the estimated $3.9 billion necessary to meet the rapidly growing needs. On the economic situation, the parties must be encouraged to deliver on their commitments in the Stockholm Agreement without further delay. Unless the Sana and Hudeida ports are reopened to commercial import and humanitarian aid, the import-dependent economy of Yemen will continue to fail and a famine will not be averted. Lastly, allow me to echo the concerns over the FSO Sefa tanker and the danger that it poses to the marine environment of the Red Sea and the safety of the Yemeni people. We thank Resident Coordinator Mr. David Gressley and his team for the ongoing progress in the efforts to secure United Nations access to the tanker and urge them to carry out all activities with transparency and in a manner that will sustain the assurances and guarantees of all concerned. Mr. President, I conclude by emphasizing that the solution to the crisis in Yemen is political, and in that regard, urge members of this Council to support efforts to end the armed conflict across all front lines. Only then can the humanitarian and economic issues be more effectively addressed. I thank you.